Ladies and gentlemen, you ever wonder why some people light up when you walk into the room and others barely blink? I used to think it was about looks, status, maybe the way you talk, but over time, I realized there are really just two reasons people truly fall in love with you. And once you understand them, it changes how you connect with everyone. This isn't about romance. This is about influence, respect, and the kind of presence that makes people say there's just something about them. Let's talk about what that something really is. You know, the first reason people fall in love with you, it's not what most of us think it is. It's not about how put together you look or how clever your lines are. It's not the shoes, the car, or the carefully curated version of yourself you post online. It's your authenticity, the real you behind all of that, the unneeded you. Now, I get authenticity is one of those words that gets thrown around a lot these days. But what it really means is this: who are you? When you're not trying to impress anyone, when there's no audience, no performance, who shows up then? Because people are tired of filters, literal and emotional ones. We're drowning in highlight reels. Everyone's projecting some version of success, confidence, or perfection. But what makes someone pause, what makes them lean in, is when they meet someone who's just real. There's something disarming about it. It makes you feel like you can breathe around them. That's when connection starts. Think about the last time you met someone and thought there's just something about them. Odds or that something wasn't flashy. It was honest. Maybe they didn't have all the right words. Maybe they were a little awkward, or their laugh was just a touch. Recapio, create AI YouTube. Summarize. Summarize or chat with AI. Read insights in seconds. Save hours. Translate to any language. Try for free. Sponsor. Too loud. But they weren't trying to be anything other than who they were. And that quiet confidence, that's what stays with people. Because in a world full of masks, truth is rare, and rare things are valuable. Now, let me tell you something that might surprise you. Authenticity isn't about spilling your entire life story or exposing every flaw. It's about alignment. When your words match your tone, when your actions match your values, when who you say you are matches who you show up as day after day, that's authenticity. That's when people can feel you, trust you, and eventually fall for you. We're wired for connection, but connection can't happen if we're always performing. You can't fall in love with someone's highlight reel. You fall in love with their human moments, the ones where they're unsure, hopeful, raw, the nervous laugh, the pause before they say something honest, the stories they didn't plan on telling but did anyway. That's where the magic is. And here's the part most people miss. Authenticity isn't about getting people to like you. It's about giving people a chance to have know you. And that's riskier, right? Because once they know the real you, rejection feels more personal. But let me tell you, when someone falls in love with a version of you that isn't real, they're not really falling for you. They're falling for the mask. And that's a heavy thing to keep carrying. So we curate, we polish, we hide. But what if the parts you're trying to hide are the very things that would make someone say, well, I didn't know other people felt that way too? What if your story, exactly as it is, what makes someone else feel less alone? I'm not saying you have to be an open book to everyone. You don't, but I am saying that when you show up in integrity with yourself, you give people something solid to hold on to. They don't have to guess who you are today. They don't have to wonder if you're pretending. And that kind of presence, it's rare. It's comforting. It's what makes people remember you long after you've left the room. So no, people don't fall in love with how perfect you look or how flawless your story is. They fall in love with your presence, your truth, your willingness to be real in a world that rewards pretending. And when you give people the gift of the real you, that's when they lean in, not just with interest, but with heart. That's when love starts to stay. Here's something we don't talk about enough. You can be standing right in front of someone close enough to touch them and still feel 1,000 miles away. Presence isn't about being in the room. It's about being in the moment. Fully emotionally. That's what people really fall in love with. We've all had conversations that felt empty, right? You're talking, they're nodding, but their eyes are somewhere else. Maybe they're checking their phone or already halfway out the door in their mind. And sure, they were physically there, but emotionally gone, and that kind of presence doesn't connect. It doesn't make anyone feel seen or safe or important. It just leaves you cold. But then there are those moments, maybe even just a few seconds, when someone really locks in with you. They're listening with their eyes, their posture, their silence. They're not just waiting for their turn to speak, their das with you. And that kind of presence is unforgettable because what it really says is you matter here, you matter to me. People fall in love with that kind of energy, not because you're perfect, but because they feel like they exist when they're with you. You reflect back their value, their worth, their story. That's the emotional glue that holds relationship together. See, the most magnetic people aren't the ones who say all the right things. They're the ones who make you feel like you're the only person in the world when you're talking to them. That kind of presence heals, it builds trust, and it leaves a mark deeper than anything surface level ever could. And let me be clear, emotional presence isn't about being dramatic or oversharing. It's about being available, accessible, honest in how you show up. And that doesn't mean you have to fix everyone's problems. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just stay in the moment with someone, not rush to a solution, not pivot the conversation back to yourself. Just be still and say with your presence, I'm here, I'm listening. But now let's flip the mirror. Think about how you show up with others. Because the truth is, if you're always distracted, always halfway out the door in your mind, people feel that. You can't fake presence. It's felt. And the people who are emotionally present, they don't have to chase connection. It comes to them because presence is rare. It's like warmth in the cold, and we're all wired to move toward warmth. Sometimes the most seen a person will feel all week is in a 30-second moment where someone actually looks them in the eye and gives them undivided attention. That's not small. That's everything. You want to build deeper connections. Stop trying to impress people and start trying to be with them. Your story, your wisdom, your energy, it lands completely differently when it's wrapped in presence. People hear you more clearly, they trust you more quickly, and they remember you long after the conversation is over because it's not about being impressive. It's about being immersed in the moment. When you're emotionally present, you create space. Space for honesty, space for trust, space for love. And that's what people fall into. Not the surface of you, but the space you make for them. So no, being in the room isn't enough. Being at the dinner table or on the phone or in the meeting, that doesn't mean you're elder with them. The people who leave imprint aren't the loudest or the most charming. They're the ones who are fully their heart, mind, and attention. And in a world full of half commitments and shallow distractions, emotional presence feels like a full body. Yes. And people can't help but move toward that kind of energy. That's when connection turns into something deeper. You want to know one of the quietest, most powerful ways people fall in love with you? It's through consistency. Not the flashy grand gestures, not the once-in-a-while attention. It's the steady presence, the reliability showing up the same way on Monday as you do on Friday. That's what builds trust. And trust, that's what builds love. We live in a world full of unpredictability. People say one thing today and change it tomorrow. Emotions swing, promises break, attention drifts. So when someone comes along who is steady, not perfect, but steady, that person becomes an anchor. And when someone feels like they can depend on you, lean on you, and know who they're going to get each time they see you, that's when something deeper starts to grow. And listen, consistency doesn't mean being emotionless or robotic. It means showing up with integrity. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. If you show care one day, you show it again the next. Even when you're tired, even when you're busy, because anyone can be kind when it's easy. But it's the people who stay kind when life is hard. Those are the ones people trust with their heart. Think about someone in your life who's earned your trust. Not someone who made a big impression once, but someone who made 100 small ones over time. You never had to guess with them. You knew where they stood, and you knew where you stood with them. That feeling, that's love rooted in trust, and it always starts with consistency. See, love isn't built in the exciting moments. It's built in the repeated ones, the check-ins, the text that says just thinking about you, the honesty, even when it's uncomfortable, the ability to disagree without disrespect. It's the people who don't just say they care, but keep showing it quietly, repeatedly. That's what builds something solid. And here's the truth most people overlook. If people don't trust your as pattern, they won't trust your as promisey. You can't promise you'll be there for someone and then disappear every time things get inconvenient. You can't say you're dependable and then only show up when it benefits you. That kind of inconsistency creates anxiety. It keeps people guessing, and no one falls in love while constantly guessing. People need to feel safe with you, not just physically, but emotionally. They need to know that their heart, their story, their trust is landing in steady hands, and consistency is what tells them, you're safe here. I won't drop you. That doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. You will. We all do. But consistency isn't about never messing up. It's about taking ownership when you do. It's about repairing what's broken, not pretending it never cracked. Because when someone sees that you handle failure with accountability, they'll trust you even more. That's part of being consistent too. And look, sometimes we chase variety because we think that's what keeps relationships exciting. But the truth is, the strongest relationships aren't built on surprises. They're built on stability, on knowing what to expect, on having a foundation that doesn't shift every time the mood does. That's what gives love a place to grow without fear. So if you want people to fall in love with you, really fall in love, they have to trust who you are over time. Not just in your highs, not just in your carefully crafted moments, but across the ordinary day. That's where consistency speaks loudest. That's where trust is earned, one choice at a time. And when people trust you, they start to let their guard down. They open up, they invest, they stop looking for exits and start looking for roots. That's what love really is. Not intensity, not drama, not perfection. Just trust built brick by brick with your presence, your reliability, and your follow-through. That's when they stop wondering if you'll stay and start hoping you do. We grow up learning to keep our guard up. Somewhere along the way, we're taught that strength means having it all together, not showing emotion, never letting people see you sweat. And so we build walls, we edit ourselves, we pretend we're okay when we're not. But here's the truth. People don't fall in love with your perfection. They fall in love with yours, honesty. And honesty requires vulnerability. That's where the real strength lies. Vulnerability isn't about oversharing. It's not about spilling your life story to anyone who will listen. It's about having the courage to be seen, really seen, to let people witness the parts of you that you've been taught to hide. The fear, the doubt, the hope, the ache, all the stuff that makes you human. See, when someone opens up to you, when they say, I'm scared, or I don't know, or that really hurt, you don't think less of them. If anything, it draws you in because you recognize something in them that lives in you too. And in that moment, there's no more pretending. Just two people being real with each other. That's where connection happens. That's when love starts to grow. We think we need to impress people to be loved. But more often than not, what draws people closer isn't your highlight reel. It's your honesty reel. It's when you say me too, or I've felt that, or I've messed that up before. That's when someone sees you not as someone on a pedestal, but as someone they can trust. And yes, it takes courage because vulnerability risks rejection. It risks misunderstanding, but it also opens the door to everything we're really looking for. Closeness, trust, intimacy. Without it, all we have are surface-level relationships where nobody really knows each other. And let's be honest, that's lonely. You can be surrounded by people and still feel unknown if you're never allowing yourself to be seen. But when you show someone who you really are, not just what you do, not just what you've accomplished, but what you carry inside, you give them a gift. You're saying, here's the real me. I trust you with this. That's powerful. That's brave. The strongest people I've ever met aren't the ones who never break down. They're the ones who let themselves feel, who face their fears head on. who ask for help when they need it. They don't hide behind a mask. They don't pretend life is always easy. They own their story, all of it. And because of that, they make space for others to do the same. You ever notice how comforting it is to be around someone who isn't trying to prove anything? Someone who's just themselves. It's like you can exhale. That's what vulnerability creates. It creates freedom. It creates safety. And it creates love, not just admiration, but real, grounded, lasting love. Because when someone shows you their struggles, when they let you see the cracks in the armor, they're giving you access to their truth. And truth is what trust is built on. Not image, not polish, not performance, just truth. And here's the thing. When you're vulnerable with the right people, they won't use it against you. They'll honor it. They'll hold it. And they'll meet you in that space with their own vulnerability. That's when walls come down. That's when people stop pretending. That's when love stops being conditional and starts being real. So no, vulnerability isn't weakness. Hiding is weakness. Pretending is weakness. But standing in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable, that's strength. That's leadership. That's love. Because the moment you stop trying to be invincible, you become unforgettable. One of the most underrated ways people fall in love with you is when they feel truly heard. Not just nodded at, not just tolerated, really heard. And the strange part, you don't even have to say much. You just have to listen genuinely, patiently, without rushing to respond or fix or redirect the conversation back to you. Because the people who listen more than they speak, they're the ones who leave an impression that words alone never could. We all want to be seen. But more than that, we want to be understood. And the only way to understand someone is to give them space to speak. Not just to share their thoughts, but to process them, feel them, unfold them in their own time. And that kind of space is rare. Most conversations today are battles of attention. People waiting for their turn to talk instead of listening with intention. That kind of listening, that's love in motion. When you really pay attention to someone, not just to their words, but to their pauses, their eyes, their tone, you're telling them they matter, and not in some abstract surface level way. You're showing them that, in this moment, they're worth your full attention. That kind of presence is felt deeply. It builds trust faster than charm ever could. You don't have to be the smartest or the most interesting person in the room. You just have to care. You just have to stay curious about other people. Ask questions that invite more, not less. Give silence time to do its work. Let them finish their sentence before you start crafting yours. People remember how it felt to be in your presence. And if it felt like they could breathe, they'll come back to that feeling again and again. And it's not about being quiet. And it's about listening with the kind of focus that says, I'm not here to control this moment. I'm here to understand it. Because when someone feels understood, they feel safe. And when someone feels safe, they open up. They show you parts of themselves that others never get to see. Not because you prayed it out of them, but because you made it safe enough for them to offer it willingly. There's a power in being the person who doesn't need to dominate the conversation to feel valued. A quiet confidence, because when you listen more than you speak, people sense that you're not performing. You're not trying to impress. You're just are there fully honestly. And that's rare. And here's something most people miss. The better you listen, the more insight you gain about what people are really saying, about what they need, about what they're trying to express underneath the surface. Listening helps you understand the parts of a person they don't know how to put into words yet. That kind of insight builds emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence builds connection. Think about the people you trust most. I bet they're not the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who caught you, who remembered the small things, who didn't interrupt you halfway through a sentence, who didn't make your story about them. And that's the difference right there. When you give people space to be the center of attention without needing to pull it back to yourself, you become the kind of person others want to stay close to. And yes, there's a time to speak, a time to encourage, to guide, to respond. But it means more when it follows deep listening, because then your words are rooted in something real. Then you're responding, not reacting. Then what you say isn't about proving something. It's about connecting. So if you want to be remembered, if you want to be trusted, if you want people to fall for who you are, try listening a little more than you speak. You'll be surprised how far silence, paired with intention, can take you. That's when people stop talking arses at you and start opening up arsu to you. People don't fall in love with you because of how great you think you are. They fall in love because of how great they feel around you. And a big part of that is this. You reflect back the value they see or hope to see in themselves. You become a mirror, a reminder